everybody else is.
Got it.
I don't
This
want
is for
anybody to be like, yeah. So first off, I think, if we limit everybody's pitch to 10 minutes, that gives us another like 10 minutes or so to talk after, which is great. And I've familiarized myself enough with your pitches. So it's about as much as I would normally know before somebody came in to pitch me, which is like, I didn't read through everything that you sent. That would sort of not be helpful. But I know the basic log lines and the kind of the basic ideas. So now I just want to be able to hear it a little more cleanly, which is normally what I would get if I was submitted through, agents or managers or such. So, so who wants to start?
What?
Great, go, Emma, go.
All right. Let me pull it up and screen share again. Okie dokie. All right, so Death by Chocolate. This is a pilot that I have been working on for a good while now. My log line is, if the systems in place aren't going to do their job, she's going to do it for them, and she's going to do it better. She being Coco, who we will learn a little bit more about in a minute. But Coco is our lead. She's a former FBI agent turned baker who kills bad men with poison cupcakes. The show is a 1-hour episodic serial hybrid. Each episode will feature a different takedown, but then there is the overarching arc of Coco's character journey. The theme of the show is women finding their power. So we will have some men sprinkled throughout the show, but this show is about the women. And all of the women either start off in positions of power or start off in positions where they stand to find their power. The show obviously involves murder, which is dark. But the way I want to handle it is sort of in the style of Pushing Daisies or Jane the Virgin, where we deal with death, we deal with abuse, we deal with heavy subject matter, but in a bright, bold, colorful, visually appealing way. So it's going to look like this, bright and, yeah, we're going to be at a funeral, but like, it's not going to be like, oh God, really heavy and depressing, like watching, even Stranger Things, which is fun, but it's got a very dark vibe. This show has a light aesthetic. And then there will be dark areas, but like this scene from Legally Blonde, even in a dark scenario, there will be a pop of pink. Our characters. So our main character is Nicole, aka Coco. She's our protagonist. You can see little me in my pink kitchen down there because this is the role I wrote for myself to play. So she is our FBI agent turned baker. When Coco was a kid, her best friend was kidnapped on a vacation and became a victim of human trafficking. And that stuck with Coco to a point where she decided that she wanted to join the FBI and help victims of human trafficking and help bring down human trafficking rings. So she joined the FBI right after school, spent 6 years working undercover in human trafficking stings. But that clearly and obviously took an emotional toll on her. And so she had to leave because she realized it was a decision between her mental health and her career, and she knew that her career just wasn't. She always enjoyed baking as a hobby, and during her time undercover in the FBI, obviously had to have a normal job, and so baking was the cover story. And then when she left the FBI, she kind of sat with what they're happy and realized that it was baking and decided to pursue that full time. So she runs, out of her home, she bakes cupcakes and cakes and sells them mostly through Instagram and word of mouth. When I was developing this character, I talked a lot about her with my acting coach, and he kind of came up with this internal struggle, Supergirl versus Cupcake Girl, which I thought was silly, but makes sense. Coco has two really heavily conflicting aspects of her personality. She wants to save the world and she wants to help everyone, and she can't stand to see people suffering. But at the same time, she just wants to bake cupcakes and live a normal life and go hiking and take a trip every now and again and, lead like a normal existence. And so these are the main internal struggle that she's going to be facing. I would describe Coco as an Elle Woods meets Dexter Morgan. You know, she's a serial killer in a way, but what does a serial killer necessarily look like? You know, why can't she be cute and pink and bake cupcakes and also kill people with those cupcakes when the time comes? So her biggest strengths are her empathy, jumping into action, and fierce loyalty. You know, she will go to the ends of the earth to protect the people she loves. Her main weaknesses are empathy, impulsiveness, and inability to separate from her work. So you see, obviously, empathy is listed there twice because that is both her greatest strength and something she's really proud of, and also the thing that causes her most struggle. Our second lead is Alicia. She is sort of a young Reese Witherspoon type. She's kind of like Charlotte York meets Celeste Wright from Big Little Lies in terms of like her life goal is to live in the perfect household. She wants to be a wife, she wants to be a mom. She just wants everything to be like sweet and perfect and happy. She sells jewelry on Etsy for a living, which is how she met Coco, because Coco was online shopping and found her store and became obsessed with her jewelry. And when Alicia moved out to LA, she and Coco met up for drinks and were like instantly friends IRL. So they are best friends and have that really tight relationship. And the reason Alicia moved to LA was to move in with her boyfriend, Jack, who got a job out here. And it turns out he is abusive, which she learns when they move in together. Alicia's greatest strengths are keeping the peace, creativity, homemaking, and a strong moral compass. You know, she knows what's right and wrong, and she won't always necessarily fight for it, but she definitely knows. Her biggest weakness is the inability to stand up for herself. She will sacrifice her own well-being in order to keep the peace, which is also fueled by her fear of loneliness. You know, like I said, her main goal is to be a wife and a mom, and can't do that alone. Gwen is another badass woman on our show. She is Coco's former boss and mentor at the FBI. She's definitely a woman of color, major feminist. She has had to claw her way up the ranks because, you know, she's a woman and a woman of color working in the FBI, which is a total boys club. So she has learned to always speak up. She loves to see men get put in their place. You know, she deals with a lot of assholes in her job, so it brings her great pleasure to watch them get taken down a peg. And if she can be involved in that, even better. Her biggest strength is her boldness and standing up for what she believes in. You know, she has reached a point in her career where she just does not give a fuck what people think. So she's gonna do what she knows she needs to do. Weakness is that she can be a bit abrasive. So not everybody loves Gwen. Our audience will love Gwen, but everyone in Gwen's life, not necessarily. And then Jamie, another recurring character. She worked with Coco and with Gwen in the past as a coroner. So she comes into play in some of Coco's takedowns because she helps clean up the mess on the back end. She also, like Gwen, just loves seeing bad men get eradicated. Her strengths are she's very intelligent, she has a strong sense of self, and she is efficient. You know, she gets in, she gets it done, she gets out. Her weakness is that she's not the most socially adept. You know, she doesn't quite understand why people are weird around death because it's so normal to her. And so for Jamie, I had in mind Sydney Biang Wong, who is a friend of mine and another actor in my studio. So I think she would just be really fantastic in this role, or someone in the same genre. And finally, the guest star of our pilot is Jack. So we know he's Alicia's abusive boyfriend. For this character, he has to be so handsome and so charming that we don't think Alicia's an idiot for staying with him. And so I had in mind a Zac Efron type for this one, you know, just like great smile, comes off super sweet, very down to earth, good guy, loves sports. You know, he's a man's man. He works in advertising. He goes to the gym. But underneath it all, he has, you know, some issues. He grew up in a house where he was not necessarily treated with love and kindness, and he has brought that into his relationship with Alicia. And so even though he's super hot and super charming, we are happy to see him dead at the end of the episode. His strengths are his good looks, Physical strength, definitely is a gym bro. And he oozes charm. His weaknesses are that he is abusive and unable to control his rage. On to our pilot. So in our pilot, we start off in Coco's kitchen, which is pink and pristine, and she's got 20 different jars of sprinkles, and she's decorating the cutest, pinkest batch of cupcakes we've ever seen. And that's just a quick establishing shot. And then she goes to Alicia's house, which she hasn't seen yet, and says, hi, happy housewarming. I brought you some cupcakes. They sit, they have some girl talk, a la, Sex and the City, the bold type. Catch up on life a little. Alicia talks about how much she's enjoying living with Jack and how she thinks maybe he's going to propose soon. And, everything's great. Then in our next scene, Alicia goes over to Coco's house to try some new frostings that Coco has whipped up. And she's wearing a scarf, which Coco looks at and it's like, it's May, it's 90 degrees. Why are you wearing a scarf? And Alicia takes it off and reveals a bruise on her neck, which she plays off as a little bedroom adventure gone awry. And Coco, in her heart of hearts, knows that that's a lie, but really, really doesn't want it to be a lie. She doesn't want her best friend to be in a bad situation. And so she lets that one slide. But then the next scene is when Coco shows up to Alicia's house, finds Alicia crying on the couch with a bruise on her face, and it's clear what's happened. She tells Alicia she needs to leave. Alicia reveals that Jack has threatened to kill her if she goes. And Coco says, all right, well, then we're going to kill him first. And Alicia, laughs it off like, yeah, right. Coco makes it very clear she's not kidding. Alicia eventually agrees, and they come up with a plan to kill Jack via poison cupcakes. Coco gets in touch with Gwen, her former boss, to secure some cyanide to bake into the cupcakes. And Gwen suggests that Coco call Jamie just to make sure everything's handled on the back end. They don't get some random in there asking questions. The plan's in place. Alicia's going to cook Jack his favorite dinner. And then there's Coco's cupcakes for dessert, half of which are poison and have no sprinkles, which Jack hates. And then half of which have no poison and lots of sprinkles. So only Alicia will eat those ones. And so they're going through this dinner, Jack's very appreciative. Oh, this meal's so great, babe. Thank you for cooking. Sorry about what happened. And just the charm, the love comes out, and she starts to waver, doesn't think she can kill this man because there is so much good in him. She calls Coco. Coco gives her a pep talk, says, get it done. She does. Jamie shows up, natural causes, bodies carted off, and the episode ends with Coco and Alicia drinking coffee on the couch and eating a safe cupcake. And then we fade to pink. So this is sort of the vibe of the episode. We have Coco's pink kitchen, girl talk on the couch, cupcakes, sleeping / dead Jack. We have, Alicia's dining table, which has a little more of a masculine energy to appease her boyfriend that she lives with. And then one of my favorite exchanges from the episode, Coco, they're talking about how to do the cupcakes. And Coco says, I'm thinking I'll mix cyanide into the frosting. It'll have to be one of my richer cupcakes so he doesn't taste it, but that shouldn't be too hard to do. And Alicia says, wow, straight to cyanide, huh? Have you done this before? And Coco says, not with cupcakes. So that's kind of the casual sort of snarky nature of we're talking about a murder plot, but we're going to be cute about it. And then I know we're running out of time, so we could talk about episodes, or I can just skip this one.
Yep, skip the future. Yeah. Do you have anything on arcs, on kind of series arcs?
So that's kind of in the future episodes.
Okay. Give it 30 seconds.
Got it. So Coco is going to start her trajectory taking down bad men, rapists, misogynists, maybe a school shooter, another human trafficker that the government can't really get. Season 1, she's going to be good. Season 2 is when she's going to lose sight of why she started doing this and have urges to kill people who don't deserve death. Someone who's an asshole, but doesn't need to be killed. Alicia, throughout the first season, is going to go into therapy and sort of realize that what she and Coco did was wrong, start to regret it, and want to confess, which is going to cause a big conflict with her and Coco throughout the end of first season. And I think that's my 30 seconds.
Okay, great. Okay, so great, Bobby, great job on the pitch. I'm going to give you a couple. I'm going to try to go through kind of as quickly as I can. I'm going to give you a couple thoughts on just sort of some pitching technique, and then actually like I'll leave a couple things in the show. I think you did a great job on the pitch. I think you structured it really well. Really, really good up top on just like the hanging of like what our bigger picture is that we can understand what to hang on to. In terms of that deck, I think that deck is a great thing if you were going to do it as a leave behind. If you're going to do it with your pitch, I would cut out almost all the text and only the visuals. The visuals are great, but that's I'd rather watch you talk about things than read it on the thing. So you might want to have two versions, one that's sort of a leave behind version and ones that like you would actually use in terms of your thing. In addition, there's, you have like lead recurring. We don't ever put that stuff on there. It would be, you could do a more kind of elegant transition of like, and that leads us to Coco's best friend, who is Alicia. You don't need to say, you just kind of elegantly transition us from person to person.
Okay.
And I think you did a great job in terms of the visuals of like setting tone. I think you're very clear on your tone. Your pink behind you set the tone too. You really just sold it all around, which is great. This show, we get pitched all the time. Yeah. So we had it. We had one with wonderful Bill Harper, who was the showrunner of Grey's Anatomy for a while. We had a pilot at ABC that was this basic idea. The idea of like overlooked women as vigilante is really, really common, particularly in the broadcast space. So, and kind of separate from that, you have not actually pitched a hybrid. What you actually pitched was a procedural. I didn't see your hybrid arcs, even in your plotting of the pilot. You really, I mean, you gave me plot for about 20 minutes of pilot, which like, I don't know that you need to pitch all of it, but there could be a line or two of like, when Alicia comes into Coco's life, what is she interrupted? Like, where is Coco going? What does Coco want that Alicia's presence has interrupted in her life? And so we really need to have that idea of like, this is a disruption, because it's that disruption that's going to create ongoing drama for yourself. So we don't see that. It's a little bit like people didn't really exist before now. And in the pilot, Gwen seems totally irrelevant. Actually, in the rest of your pitch, Gwen seems sort of totally irrelevant. So how does she ultimately tie it? Like, are you creating vigilante A team that eventually is all going to work together, or is it? So there's a little bit of confusion on that front.
Okay.
I think your better bet with this is to go further and make it 30 minutes and make it for cable. Like, go real, like go far. If you're going to do something that is a basic idea, which is like female vigilantes taking down men who've been awful, you need to go a lot further. Okay. And understand that the thematics need to be a little bit deeper too than that. Like, I really want to understand like what you're trying to say here. Because as much as some of these things haven't made it to air as much as you might think, there's 5 of them in development every year. There is a book club takes down people. There is that is a very, very ripe area for development. We have developed multiple in our time this way. So it just does make it a little bit harder. Do I think you as an actress have an idea of who this character is and the visual of this and could like make a really, really funny, really fucked up 10-minute short? I do, and I think you should. So I think you should consider that. And if you're in LA and you know enough people, I think you make something really fucked up, and that could be fun, and put it out for yourself. And like prove out your concept that you have something that is unique and different to say. But in terms of like traditional kind of pitch for this sort of thing, you'd have a really hard time emerging writer to sell this concept, because it isn't something that's so far beyond what we've seen. And I didn't get a total sense of why you are the exact right person to tell it, other than you get a sense of this character as an actress. So lean into your strengths. You can actually put together the pieces with your iPhone, make something really, really clever. And actually, what you beat out in the pilot is you could make it in an 8-minute short.
Wow.
So that's what I would say. I would talk to you more, but I got to move on. I don't want to take other people's time, and I do have an 11 o'clock meeting. So, but I mean, really great job. You really did do a great job kind of structuring and pitching out what you were looking at. So,
thank you.
If you have any questions, shoot me an email. Let me know.
Awesome.
Okay, who's next? I can see that, Bardo.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm starting a timer. Okay.
Okay, great.
I'll go.
Andrew,
Hey guys.
it's all you.
So I'll start. I am not a professional at this at all.
Great.
Bought a stoner cat, found out about this, and threw together an idea that came to me a couple months ago. And I said, "Oh, I have an idea. This could be something." So let me go ahead and share my screen. Sorry, one second. I have to restart Zoom to be able to share my screen. One second.
Well, why don't you jump off? I'll go to Turhan and then you can do that. Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Yep. And you're on mute.
I'm unmuting myself. Thank you.
Did I say your name right?
Yeah, Turhan, Troy Kalak. I got 3 of them.
Okay.
Pick one out. Yeah, so yeah, I'm ready to go.
Let's do it.
I don't know that I need to share my screen though. I'm
Great.
cool. Yeah.
Great talk. Love it.
Okay, I'll start the timer.
This will be about a nice 3 to 4 minutes and relaxed and energetic, and we'll just relax with each other. Okay. All right. So imagine a world where a newly divorced middle-class Caucasian woman in her 50s impulsively marries a 30-year-old East Indian multi-billionaire on a remote island vacation on the eve of an important political election. And her entire conservative-minded family find this out on national TV and then must deal with the fallout and the very culturally different family with which they're now entwined. New Family Order is what this show is called. It's a new half-hour comedy about Raj Roy, a Silicon Valley billionaire, who is not only 20 years younger than his new wife, Delia Nichols, but is now a father and grandfather to her children and their children. Sounds kind of fun, right? Well, every week, we're going to follow the eccentric middle-class Nichols family as they learn to assimilate with their new opinionated in-laws and their cultural traditions, along with Raj's tech company and the growing pains of it, all while the newlyweds try to attempt to navigate their new life together. But George Nichols, Delia's ex-husband, ain't having it. He still hasn't let go, even though she has, kind of like Johnny Lawrence in Karate Kid, who won't give Allie her radio back. And then there's Raj's folks, who are the CFO and COO of his company, Face Value. You see, Raj started Face Value when he was only 15. He's a genius. So it was natural that they cut themselves in. And Maggie and Harry, Delia and George's 30-year-old children, aren't the happiest about their mom marrying a guy their age. But being tied to money is kind of a good thing, but it really can't fix what's broken at the heart of just about every family: communication and understanding. But they all got to get along one way or the other, because Raj and Delia ain't having it either. So it's either get used to it or stay out of their love life and what they're trying to build. So years ago, my 80-year-old grandfather introduced me to his new young all-American wife of 28 and her 2-year-old son. And I remember this day, and I asked him, who the boy was. And he looked at me, he said, "He's your uncle." Yeah, this kind of thing happened quite a bit in my big Turkish family. I even had a young step-uncle who married my old aunt. I don't know why. She's lovely, but love is love. Who then inherited not only her kids, but her kids' kids. And just like that, the poor sap became a grandfather overnight, which gave me the idea for New Family Order. It's just like, it was delivered to me by the universe. So I'm the king of culture clash. I'm perfect to run this show. I've been on both sides of the coin and watched all kinds of squabbles throughout my youth and even today. Hodgepodge family mashups and diversity have always had their problems. We all know that. But some make it work because they found a way. And maybe the families in my show will too. We're just going to have to wait and see. And I'm just going to make it happen. We need to continue to explore, educate, and grow together as family units in general. I know we got a lot of fucked up family members, and I'm guessing we'll hear some stories later at some other point, because we're all the same and we all go to the bathroom quite the same way. When anybody's pulling shit on me, I look at them like that. we all go to the bathroom. That's fine. I don't care if you're a king or prince. I grew up Muslim in this country, went to Catholic school. Yeah, wrap that around your head. Not to mention my mom and dad were forced to marry. Everything in my family experience has been shoved down my throat, including Christmas and Thanksgiving. But see, I'm not throwing those out because that's good because you get to eat a lot of food and you get presents. But there's a lot of function in dysfunction. Let me just repeat that. There's a lot of function in dysfunction. It's kind of normal the way that my parents were divorced for 25 years, lived in the same house. Normal to me. And meeting my 2-year-old uncle was the bridge to an idea that has been stewing in me for a long time. And I can't wait to run this show and telling the world about my family dynamics through the POVs of the Roys and Nichols is my way of doing that. New Family Order is a fresh twist on broken marriages gone, not just south, but east. Anyway, it's Modern Family meets Silicon Valley with throwback vibes and biases from All in the Family. And for the next 100 episodes, we get to join them on their journey. We can do this together because I'm sure you got some stories that I can share to the world with this show. Anyway, that's my time.
Okay, so you're thinking of it as 30-minute broadcast?
Broadcast, yeah, broadcast.
Single?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the way I have it set up, kind of, it could still be multicam because I'm not doing so many locations, but I structured it. I've been, writing for a long time, and I've structured it not double spaced, whatever.
Okay, what's your pace on it? Like, I mean, where's the comedy coming from? Is the comedy coming from setup punchline, or is the comedy coming from relationship dynamics?
Relationship dynamics. So I'd
to make
say
it a single.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm leaning more towards that. I just wanted to be conservative with my set pieces, just in case. But yeah, I always pitch it as a single. I should have said that, but that's
okay. And then in terms of relationships between the Raj Delia relationship, where are they? Is this is true love? So like, are we? Is it like where we're struck? Like in the oh my God, Mad About You. All we really care about is those two love each other and stay together. And we want to watch them through. Are they our anchoring point, or is there somebody else who is our anchoring point?
No, they are the anchoring point, and they have their own problems because Raj is 30 years old. He doesn't have his own kids, and she's in her 50s. Does she want to bear more children? Is he okay with that? Did he jump in too quick? It's not about not loving each other. It's like, did we think this through kind of thing? But the love is the tug and pull that will try to carry them through, not to mention dealing with their family members who are just sort of walking, and they're going to get past this stuff, but it always brings problems because they believe in different political views and certain little, iterations of their POVs and stuff like that.
So since they are both adults and all of the children are adults, how are the kind of ancillary characters organically being involved in their day-to-day life? Do they live next door? Are they at work? Are they like, where are we jumping into these conflicts?
Yeah. So Harry lives with his father, George, and he's kind of a stoner, and he's a gamer as well. So he lives down in the basement. He's very smart, but he's just kind of a slacker. Maggie works in politics for a congressman in California. So she's hating her job, and then Delia is the principal of her school. She ends up by second season by the end of the first season to want to go into politics herself and run. And so Raj's parents actually live in his mansion. It's because he was a kid and they reaped benefits. And it's that kind of like, he actually kicks them out in season 1 just for a little bit, like, hey, like, I run this show, I walk the dog kind of thing.
Delia moves into Raj's house with.
Definitely. And then Maggie has 2 kids. So, and Raj has 2 nephews, or a niece and nephew. So there's 3 generations in there. And not to mention other characters that I can employ along the way, but that's the meat of it. Yeah.
Great. Do you have some sample episodes that you can walk me through of like?
Yeah, definitely. I have 13 episodes in the pitch deck I sent to Bordeaux.
Yell out a couple of them, just like a couple of headlines.
You got it. I'll do like episode 2, episode 7, and episode last or something. All right. Episode Should I read you the first step? It's only 5 lines, just so you get the pilot.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
We pick up after Raj and Delia finally meet in person on an impromptu retreat in India after a year-long online love affair. Things were sizzling up on so many levels that they threw major caution to the wind and got hitched. They arrived back in America, but due to Raj's celebrity status as an uber successful Silicon Valley entrepreneur, the press is having a field day, and the Nichols and Reddy families collective panties and underpants are in a twist. Everyone finds out for themselves that there's a surprise wedding reception, and it's totally awkward, to say the least, especially when Delia's ex-husband George shows up drunk and pissed. So they're foisting this onto them. So I'll move to like episode 5.
Sure.
Or episode 4. While still trespassing on Raj's property, Harry gets as friendly as he can when Ravi and Leela, his Raj's nephews, who have been relegated to staying in the guest house, Harry finds an opportunity to ask Raj for a job, but Raj decides to turn him away as to not complicate things with Delia. So Harry is George's son. He's the gamer, stoner guy. Also, Raj finds out later that Harry is a killer video gamer and ends up offering him a job in his gaming division at the company anyway. And Harry's like, all I got to do is play games. And he's like, yeah. So Maggie, whose husband's Tom, their relationship becomes more strained when Tom hires a hot young babysitter to help watch the kids, and then, I don't know, I can skip ahead. I can do a wrap up here. I'll just do the season finale. Marital life at home for Maggie is on the decline. So she ends up temporarily living with Raj and Delia. Maggie begins to respect her mother's decision to marry Raj and becomes inspired to help her issues with Tom. Maggie suddenly gets fired by Congressman Richards. Maggie then sues the congressman for sexual harassment regarding the moves he put on her while she was drunk. Delia suggests that Maggie get back at the congressman by running against him. Delia grows tired of her job as a principal and aims to be Maggie's campaign manager. Harry comes out with the truth that he stole the video game idea from Taj, who is Raj's little nephew, who's smarter than everybody. William causes more unwanted attention William is Maggie's son, 12 years old, causes more unwanted attention for the Nichols family as he keeps pushing the envelope with his live rapping videos in and around the boarding school property for which he attends. Even though Rini, who is Raj's niece, who's 10 years old, she has a bad boy crush on William, who's Maggie's son, causing a huge stir for the families. Liza, who's a daughter, this is almost done, has a first kiss with Raj's cousin. The verdict of Raj's case is up in the air, and meanwhile, he already has a back pocket idea for a new platform that he tells no one about. Even though that they thought they were on the same page, Raj decides that he wants kids after all and proposes that he and Delia adopt. Delia, however, doesn't want more kids. The bomb that gets dropped at the end of the first season is that Blair, the younger woman George had sex with from the bar, says she's pregnant. There's a lot going on here.
Okay.
But, yeah.
All right. Okay. So a couple things. First off, I mean, obviously it's very clear why you're the person who tells this story. And that's like half the job, frankly.
Yeah. Awesome.
I would, if I were you kind of telling this going forward, I'd be a little clearer. I think that's your personal story of like, this is my family. My grandfather just introduced me to my uncle who's 2 years old. Like by the way, I had a similar experience, so I get it.
That's funny. Yeah.
That's a really good place to start. That sort of captures people's attention. That kind of personal connection to the thing. It seems like you've got several thematics going on, and like what I want to talk about is that you've got the age difference issue, you've got the economic difference issue, you have the cultural difference issue, plus you have all of the extended family. You have too many things that you're trying to do, especially if you're talking about a broadcast show. I know if you look at like Home Economics, which is a show that's in second season, it's dealing with the same with the financial disparities. So they have kind of some similarities, which by the way is not a problem on the. This is not a problem. It's just saying something to look at into terms of take a look at it and see how much plot they can actually burn through in an episode. And I think you have too many characters to serve.
Okay.
Right now.
Okay.
Especially as you're talking about pitching it out. So, I mean, if your anchor points are this couple who were trying to stay together, it's going to be a while before you're really going to want to jump into like, and I love the complication of the ex-husband. I think it's a really fun, unique, real good, it's a great complication. And certainly the kids are going to have some opinions, but right now you have kids and grandkids, ex-husband, now ex-husband's girlfriend. You've got,
Something like that, yeah.
yeah,
Sorry,
you've
doing
got,
everything outside. Yeah.
no problem.
Oh my God, LA, I love it. Jesus.
I know, I know. And then you've got, of course, Raj's whole side and his whole family. When I think what you really have for an entire first season is the ability for these two people, there is an amazing inciting incident. They fall in love, they move in, they don't know each other. So what you have is the possibility for plot that is complicated by these other things, but is not driven by these other things. So you really need to like focus in on the two of them to start, because that's going to be our like heartwarming anchor point. And if you, I like go back and look at the Home Economics pilot, it's the Topher Grace character and his wife that are our anchor point, and everybody else, and they're servicing a lot of characters. And those writers are very, very, very experienced writers. And it's a heavy lift to service that many characters. So I think you want to really kind of consider who your core is, who your heart is, and start with them. Everybody else is flavor. Everybody else is fun. But they're where our heart and our soul is. And so you want to make sure that we are like really rooting for the two of them to stay together. Otherwise you don't have a show. Like, that's the show, is them. So I think you might want to go in and kind of consider that, and really, as you're talking about your episode ideas, dig in a little bit more to like character arc stuff as opposed to plot stuff. There'll be you have plenty of plot. You will never run out of plot.
Yeah.
But you've got to get to like heart and character, because that's what people will stay. That's what people will stay. And when you're talking about broadcast comedies in particular, plot doesn't move along that much, and most of it is pretty closed-ended by the end. You do have some stuff that moves from episode to episode, but it's really, you really might want to like really consider starting with day one here. They're in their house, they've moved in, there is one closed-ended complication that you'll handle in that pilot, and then some really fun runner that you'll bring in from the outside. And that's sort of enough in a pilot. You're going to just need to meet these people and fall in love with them first, really get a sense of their relationships, what sparks between Raj and Delia, what's the spark? Like and that's super exciting and super fun for us to watch people be in love, and then also be kind of pulled apart by the craziness in the rest of their family.
Yeah, that's very valuable. Are you guys reading the pilot at all?
I have it. I will tell you that my current submission list for pilot reading is hilariously long, and I am hilariously backed up on it.
No, I hear you.
But we do have, but I will put it in. I'll put it in our queue when I can get to it. I can certainly have. He's gonna kill me for doing this. Brendan, who does all of our coverage first, I'll have Brendan take a look at it too when he has a moment.
Yeah.
I'm sure Sarah's gonna raise her hand and be like, "We need Brendan." Brendan's doing everything now. But we can certainly get somebody to have eyes on it to give you some thoughts.
And I love your notes, of course, and I could whip that up in no time. I'm a very, very fast and efficient writer. I've been doing this for a long time, but they're very valuable, and it's actually easier for me because I know stories will always be coming, and I have a lot of them. So right. I just thought, I don't know if there was worth anybody's time to read that, to see how far away I am from that, rather than, but yeah.
No, absolutely happy to have somebody take a look and eventually I can get to it. But we're talking about I think I'm about 5 or 6 weeks out on reading right now.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Listen, we're all busy, definitely. Okay.
But great job. Obviously you bring a lot of energy, and you get a sense of that world because of the energy and your personal story that you're bringing. So great,
awesome.
Great job.
Thank you so much.
All right, Andrew, back to you. Whew.
All righty, let's try this again.
You got it.
Let's see here. Share. Keynote. Share. Perfect.
Great.
All right.
You did it.
I work in IT too, so this is extra. Ridiculous. So anyway, Franklin, Jaguar PI. I'm not sure what visuals come to mind when everyone hears that, but let me give you what visuals came to me. Franklin is a jaguar in a 1920s Chicago zoo. And one day there's a solar flare, and all of a sudden, Franklin can speak. This is not unusual because the world of 1920s Chicago in this universe, strange things happen all the time. So the visual style, this is a half-hour animated series with a hybrid plot structure. That's sort of what came to me. And this world is sort of a cross between, think the early 90s Batman animated series and the X-Files. So strange supernatural phenomenons, they happen in this world. So Franklin can speak all of a sudden, and it's not like the zoo keepers or the general population are freaked out by this. On the other hand, they sort of think, oh, you can speak. What do you want to do? You know, what can you contribute to society? We need to help you out. And because Franklin has been very observant, that's his personality to the core. He's very erudite and just really knows human behavior from observing the people who've been watching him his whole life. He naturally decides to become a detective, because in 1920s America, the private eye career is burgeoning. So that's sort of that's where we start. I'll give you a little more detail. I understand this is a wall of text. I'll try to mix it up a little bit. So, you know, I really want to emphasize that it's very visual, visually dependent on Art Deco, and there's another term for this, dark deco. That's you know, again, referencing Batman and sort of superheroes, but they're not. None of these phenomena that are existing in this universe are considered superheroes in a comic book sense. They're just sort of natural. You know, okay, this is a new being that we have to deal with. Like an alien may land in Baltimore, and okay, that's just another character in the universe that exists now. So Franklin starts a small business as a PI, and he's sort of on his own, taking cases, and people aren't freaked out by him. They just sort of, you know, people will give him business. Although he does tend to get some of the stranger cases. And one of the strange cases that comes to him right away is a time traveler from the future. 2020, so present day. I was thinking maybe an actor or some famous person from our current era who tries a time machine. They think they're going back to the 1970s or 80s, but instead they go all the way back to the 1920s and end up in this strange time and place. And through this other character, that's sort of is how the audience gains entry into the universe. And so they're more of a fish out of water than Franklin is, the talking jaguar. So the time traveler arrives in the 1920s. They're very confused. All they want to do is go home. And the sort of caseworker that gets assigned to this time traveler says, well, you know, why don't you go work with a detective? Here's this guy's business card. See if he can help sort you out. So that's sort of the genesis of that partnership plot. It's really sort of it becomes sort of a Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson by way of a talking jaguar and someone from the future. And they do have also a kind of a Mulder and Scully dynamic as well, where they're exploring and solving, you know, odd cases in this universe, this beautiful dark deco universe with gangsters and you know, sort of the Roaring Twenties, but with supernatural elements. So here's some additional sort of rough concept art. I think you get the idea of dark deco there. I do want to skip ahead. Here centrally is a poster from an old a 40s noir movie called Night Has a Thousand Eyes, and Edward G. Robinson plays a nightclub fortune teller who he is just doing it to make a buck. But it turns out during the course of the film, his power actually is real. And he suddenly becomes a very real psychic. And it's accepted and it's leveraged in the course of this plot. And that's an example of something that can happen in this universe, in this you know, beautifully animated universe. So a little bit about the conceptualization. I talked a little bit earlier about how, you know, I really am not in the creative industry. I do something completely different.
You're in IT.
I am in IT. Yes, yes. So, but I do love, you know, movies and TV, and I've certainly, you know, I actually have a copy of a book about the creation of the X-Men animated series in the early 90s. So I actually know a fair amount about how you know, intense the development is on this sort of thing. So I have a lot of respect for the creative industry. But I literally was in a zoo earlier this summer, just kind of walking around, hadn't been to a zoo in years. My girlfriend and I decided to go for a stroll. And I jokingly later said, you know, what if these animals had day jobs? What would they do? You know, would one of them run like a mechanic shop? Would another be a detective? And so flash forward a couple of months, this opportunity came up, and I said, oh yeah, I have a story about a talking detective. And I sort of started thinking about, you know, what would work visually. So that's the background. More of the world building. You know, again, the average citizen in this world is generally quite serious, but there is some fun. You know, the tonality of the show. You know, one episode might be completely not serious at all. They're investigating something that you know, actually does turn out to be a joke or a practical joke. It doesn't have to be consistently about the sort of nefarious supernatural elements that exist in this world, such as, you know, is there a government conspiracy? You know, what's going on with the aliens? There's an evil sort of Bruce Wayne type, you know, evil Bruce Wayne, who he may be in league with elements that want to overthrow the government, and you know, that sort of deeper deeper nemesis aspect of the show is sort of always lingering on the edges, but we don't really know. Again, similar to the X-Files, what is the smoking man up to? We don't really know. We find out over the course of time, and they'll pop up in different areas of the plot in different episodes. For characters, you know, again, we've got Franklin, the time traveler. You know, originally I thought, well, you know, just throwing a dart at the board, I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe like someone like Sylvester Stallone, but it could really be anyone from the 2020s, thrown back in time, fished out of water, and you know, just kind of exploring the universe as Franklin's assistant, with the ultimate hope that he'll get back home. We've got competing detectives that you know, Franklin may have a love-hate relationship with the detective down the street. They may be vying for the same leads on the same cases, that sort of thing. They play off each other in that respect. You know, again, the villain that I mentioned earlier, named Kingfish, he he could be sort of a Professor Moriarty / evil Bruce Wayne. We've got mob bosses. We've got, the mayor, sort of the usual flavor of characters that you would find in sort of a serial crime superhero show like this. And then lastly, what else do we have here? Sort of this last block of text at the bottom here. The characters grow and explore the spaces of the strange and beautiful world. They expand Franklin's business. They gather clues as to what Kingfish is really up to. Was it more than a solar flare that created Franklin? Will Sylvester ever get back to his own time? Who will stop Kingfish? These are sort of the primary story drivers for, season 1 and beyond.
Okay.
So that's that.
Great. Can I ask a few questions? Which is,
Yes.
first off, are there any other talking animals in this world?
Not at the start.
Okay.
So there could be, but it's not treated as unusual. It's not treated as usual. It's sort of open.
Okay. Here's you can stop share. You've gotten some stuff in place. There's a lot more that you need in place. So obviously you have a really strong aesthetic idea of what this looks like and feels like, and that's cool. My only concern on it is, as sort of a main idea, is that PIs are a lot. 20s noir PI, a lot. So you're really going to have to do something that has really never been done before to get somebody to really jump in on it. But I mean, it's fun. It sounds like a neat place. But I also think that there's a term that we use, it's an annoying term, called hat on a hat. I think you have a hat on a hat. You've got
with the
animal
time travel thing. Yep.
time travel.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I know.
You don't need it.
I know.
You have 2 inciting incidents. You've got this jaguar can talk now, and this guy just came back from the future.
Yes. Yes.
So I think that's too much. And so then you can layer in mystery in other ways that you will end up being able to play out in kind of a longer term, bigger mythological arc. But none of it are we going to care about until we understand how Franklin and, oh my God, wait, what's the guy from the future? What's his name?
I called him Sylvester.
Sylvester, that's right, Sylvester. That's right. If we don't understand the magic between Franklin and Sylvester, this is where we're gonna they're the core of our show. I mean, it's the exact same thing that I just said to Turan, which is who are the people that we want to watch going forward all the time, and what is that dynamic in that relationship? And I think we've seen a lot of buddy cop stuff. So if it's gonna be a buddy cop feel or buddy PI feel or whatever that is, that relationship needs to be really unique. You need to I encourage, especially because you're newer into this kind of creative space. Obviously, you have ideas and passions and things that you want to I think you have stories to tell, but it's look at who are the people in your life who have the most interesting relationship you've ever seen, and steal it, put it in there. Where are the conflicts? Where are the things that work really well? Why do they have to work together as opposed to somebody else put them together? I think it's a stronger, having an external force throw them together is one thing, but having themselves be pulled together for a common need.
Yeah.
I think that's just a stronger choice.
Yeah.
And so think about what might bring these people together. I mean, I think you really need to rethink Sylvester entirely, and who is he? What does he want? What is meeting Franklin? Can they meet up? A really tropey way to do it is that they meet up going after the same person. So, if you were going to do it Sherlock and Watson, they both know that Moriarty is out there. In the first episode, they get in each other's way going after the bad guy, and then realize, oh, it's better if we just team up together. I mean, that's a very tropey way of doing it, but it's a very clean, simple way of doing it too. So, and beyond, especially when you're just starting, because you have so many ideas, stick with a few tropes for your first thing. Stick with some stuff that works, that we see that works, and then just try to add one thing on it. I think that would be I think that could really help you. And you have this idea of what would this jaguar's job be? And that's always fun.
Mhm.
And you have this idea of this like dark deco world, which is super cool. I mean, my husband's such a huge fan of the Batman animated series. It's around here a lot, guys. So I think that that's a place to start. And then as you're exploring it out, I think like take a step back and start with characters. You have your world, start with characters, start with those relationships, and then move forward on who the bad guys are.
Sure.
Then you can start building out a little bit more mythology, and then you can build out what is the mystery of. I mean, we can also know very little about Sylvester except for personality. He could be mysterious. Later, we can actually introduce the fact that he came from the future, but that's totally possible. Maybe he just shows up and nobody knows who he is. Mystery and confusion are separate things, so be sure that you're really clear if you're going to lay in mystery, that it's on purpose and that you're not just making a confusing story.
Yep.
But he can show up, and if people say, where'd you come from? And he tells a different person a different thing every time, we start learning some things about him. But start with personality and start with relationships, and then slowly build out those other characters. So you've got a great start. You just, you got a lot of work to do because this shit is hard. So
I know. Yes.
But
Yes.
I think you're in a fun place. And I think because things like this, a lot of them can start in a comic book way. And I actually think that this might be a fun thing to do in a comic book sort of route. You might even want to consider maybe even just writing it that way, writing out like, and because you've pulled really evocative images, maybe you want to like put together yourself like a little bit of like we do an animatic, which I'm going to be reviewing later. But it's, you know, it's like a picture and a little bit of dialogue, a picture and a little bit of dialogue, and like maybe play out a scene or two that way, that way you can combine your visuals with the characters and dialogue, because obviously the visual is the place that you've started. And then, you know, there's other things like you spent some time pitching out a different movie to me to talk about the kind of mysteries that we could play. Find your own mysteries, you know,
Sure.
and kind of consider what that bigger mystery is. I mean, I think this obviously makes sense that there's a big old overarching mystery that we need to solve. Everybody loves a Moriarty. Everybody loves a big bad guy that we're going after. And then season 1, mini boss, each episode, a step on the way to the mini boss. I mean, that, you know, those structures work. They make sense. That's cool. You gotta dig in. And also, like, it seems like you enjoy this. So do it, have fun. Like it's fun to be creative, and it's fun to find these things. And then as you're refining it, maybe you'll really catch on to something.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that feedback. That, you know, I really liked a phrase I've had in the back of my head is, you know, don't show all your cards right away. And I think you kind of expressed that, you know, especially with your keep some of the, you know, maybe keep the time traveler mysterious, or keep that other character, you know, sort of have them meet more organically, have a reason for the interaction. And that's great. That matches up with what I had. So, all right, cool. Thank you so much for the feedback.
You guys, all three of you, this could have been a shit show, and it really wasn't. You guys were great. All three of you were fantastic. You have my email. The door is open. Understand that I will be very, very slow responding to things because it's real busy here. But please feel free. Like if you have like really specific, this is, and I'll have to jump in a second, but this is like just this is career advice. When it's reaching out to somebody like me or in my kind of position, you reach out with a small specific ask with a small specific question. That kind of stuff we can handle, we can manage. The bigger, like, what do you think about this? It becomes a little harder, but like really, you know, is it this or is it this? I can answer that question for you. But like, I only have so much time. So, you know, just be judicious with that.
So that
Thank you.
I'm just gonna end.
Well, thank you so much.